the final question I asked was, what's one idea that you think is underrated and the community should be putting more focus on and should be thinking about a little bit more?
Evaluation, and I think evaluation is a very hard problem, especially for large language models. How would you evaluate ChatGPT, and how do you know like it's actually doing what it was trained to do? And even though it apparently is really good, it is also like very convincing at misinformed things, and it can be a tool for spreading things that are just factually incorrect.
Yes, I think a very critical topic where NLP will not play a central role but will play an important role is the avoidance of language death. So we have 7,000 languages currently spoken on the planet Earth. They're dying at a very high rate, and within 10 to 20 years we'll lose thousands of languages, and perhaps in 50 to 60 years we'll be down to just 12, 14 languages if things continue as they go now. And so it's critical that NLP figure out what role it can play in avoiding language death.
I'd love to see a lot more work on bridging the symbolic space with the neural space, a kind of neurosymbolic and hybridization in general. And I say this because in the history of the field, I've been 25 years working in NLP, and I've seen this pattern before when people were doing a lot of symbolic NLP, and statistical MT became, or statistical models in general became, more feasible because we actually have resources that can handle them, computers, memory, etc. So we saw kind of these improvements in one side of this equation, but then eventually people basically started coming back together and looked about hybridization between the statistical and the symbolic. And now we're going through that same time again. Some of the challenges that we work on in our lab, although we specifically work on Arabic, but a lot of what we can do and learn can actually be applied to other languages, is basically about providing ways to control the performance of these systems. For example, we know that, I'll just pick one case of, there's gender bias that exists in these models. In some cases, we think the gender bias is actually, it doesn't matter if it's in the model itself, as long as, in fact, in the system that uses such model, there is no information to control and direct toward the right gender preferences, for example. So bringing in the user, developing better HCI systems, etc., to make these powerful models that are so exciting actually useful to people without actually creating more problems for them. We believe one approach to this is to actually have some of this neurosymbolic approaches or hybrid approaches coming together.
Working on factuality, disinformation, propaganda, bias, fact-checking, and so what I think we should what should look at is putting the human in the loop and thinking of what fact-checkers actually need. And I have been working on this for a while, but I'd like to see this more mainstream. Number one, what is interesting to fact-check in the first place, kind of claim extraction. Number two, detecting whether it was previously fact-checked.
I think more focus on evaluation, resource creation, multilinguality. These are all topics that are growing in importance and obviously have always been important, but growing in awareness as well, growing in popularity to work on. We need, I think maybe that's another controversial or strong opinion of mine. I think where we're going as a field is more smaller data sets in our evaluation that have a very, very clear evaluation story, rather than one large data set with hundreds of thousands of examples that we can fine tune on for 2 weeks and then get one model that has one task and only that one task. Because we now have these multitask models, and that is something I think where we're going as a field, is that we will build a lot more data sets with 500 examples, 1,000 examples, but that are really easy to evaluate instead of having unclear evaluation for large corpora.